now you can actually use your own body, an own picture of you, and see what this particular clothing item might look on you, not on some model, but actually on your person.
You can just install this. It would automatically scan the inventory, find pictures, train the model. People can upload their own picture on this virtual fitting room and then see any piece of clothing they want on their own image. It would be like a very personalized form of marketing.
I think every guy out there hates trying on things, just a big pain in the butt. So just for that fact alone, this tool's awesome.
This is just so seamless, and it's crazy realistic.
And at that point, why bother with models? Why bother with real photo shoots?
Yeah, so you got into AI imaging, right? Like using images, training different models. So can you talk to me about your project, Outfit AI? So it's outfitai.co. So tell me a little bit about what that is, where it came from, and what it does.
Yeah, sure. Yeah. So Outfit AI, it's an idea. I think I've had it for over a year now, since I was playing with Stable Diffusion and in painting. So originally I was just playing with pictures of my kids, and then with Stable Diffusion in painting, you can give the model like a picture, and you can give it like a black and white mask, and it keeps some parts of the image. So it was quite fun to add different backgrounds, put the kids somewhere, make themed things, and I was so amazed by that because it's this model. For some reason, if you in-paint an image and you would cut out a person and just change the background, it's really good. Keeps the lighting sort of correct. Even if you have a bad mask, like it solves like strange colors or things. It makes an object out of that. So I was amazed by the possibilities. And turned out you could quite easily change clothes as well, just by masking, the clothes that people wear, and asking the AI to, change the red dress into a blue dress or do something. But then, of course, the cool thing would be if you could do this with real clothes, because then you could sort of check how these clothes would look on yourself on a web shop and see if you want to buy this. So for that, of course, the model needs to really know the items that are available for sale. So I've been doing a lot of experimentation with that. First with the Dream Boot retraining of Stable Diffusion. So there you can give 10 or 20 images and it starts retraining the entire model. Takes quite a while, but it learns a representation of the object. And then a bit later, the LoRa's came out, sort of the faster way to do these trainings. And yeah, I played a lot with it, and in the end, I did find ways that worked well. So they were reproducible enough. I could give 5 to 10 images of a model wearing a piece of clothing. Could be a shirt, could be a dress, can be anything. And then it needs some training. And at that point, the model knows, well, this is, this item. And you can add it on another person. So there's many challenges, right? So you want the result to be the same person. So keep the face, keep the body shape, keep the skin color. No strange things should be happening at that point, and it should be maybe fast enough as well. So ideally, I would like to have like a Shopify app where you can just push the button and then like within a second you see the next outfit. So at this point, I think I'm very far with the consistency. Image quality looks good. and I can train the model easily on like on scraping a web shop. That works well enough. The biggest challenge now is that like my image generations take 10 to 20 seconds. So that's one thing I'm working on at the moment.
You can go on to outfitai.co. You can see a demo. I tried the demo. Works pretty easily, pretty seamlessly. It's cool. But that's one of the things about shopping, right? Is like when you're shopping in the store, you can go in and try on these clothes and see what they look like in you. When you're online shopping, it's like, okay, instead of going through that painful process of, I don't know if I'm going to like this, I'm just going to order a bunch of stuff and then return a bunch of stuff that I don't like. Now you can actually use your own body, an own picture of you, and see what this particular clothing item might look on you, not on some model, but actually on your person. Is that the idea? Something like that?
Exactly. Yeah. Yeah. And because of course, usually the models don't really look the way you look, unfortunately. Maybe colors can be quite different with your own skin tone, hair color. It could be, yeah, like trying on clothes is really different than looking at the picture. And that's even before, you know, deciding which size you should even have, because there are definitely some, I think there's a lot of smart machine learning on that side that some shops employ. You know, they sort of know your measurements after some orders. You know, like you can send back the ones you send back, but even, you know, the step before that, the colors, the general fit of things. Yeah, ideally I would like to have some sort of TikTok style thing where you could swipe and then, you know, don't like this, don't like this. Yeah, I like that. And it's fully personalized. You don't need models at all.
Jasper, can you just walk me through the long-term vision of this project? Because right now it looks like you have like a demo mode. You're working on things. What's your long-term vision for this? Do you see this on like online retailer stores? Do you see people taking clothing? You know, do you have your own store? What does it look like?
Ideally, I would have Shopify integrations, like where people that own a store or brands can just install this. It would automatically scan the inventory, find pictures, train the model, and then have this little like virtual fitting booth app they can add anywhere on their site. And if people then decide to use it, people can upload their own picture on this virtual fitting room and then see any piece of clothing they want on their own image. And at that point, I would love it if they decide to, if they like it, if they decide to add their email address, and then they can get personalized, like maybe weekly pictures, newsletters of their own, you know, the clothes that would look good on them, maybe picked by the retailer or a stylist, and it would be like a very personalized form of marketing.
For sure. That'd be awesome. So you would get like an email newsletter or something from I don't know, like Gap, or what are the hot clothing companies now? Like any kind of clothing company now, they'll send you an email newsletter and it might show you with a new outfit on yourself. And it will know what kind of outfit you like based on what you bought in the past, maybe something like that.
Yeah, indeed. Yeah. And then you wouldn't need any models anymore. You only look at yourself, which may be a bit strange. I can imagine it being personalized to that level. Yeah.
Well, I mean, that's one thing is, I mean, this is more I think people going to shopping malls and out in the real world, it's becoming less and less. So it doesn't sound like it's geared toward those type of people, and it's sort of going away in a way. But one thing I do want to say is I think every guy out there hates trying on things, you know, going to shopping and trying things out on, if they go out to a real store. maybe their wife's with them or girlfriend's with them, and it's just a big pain in the butt. So
Yeah,
just
it
for
is.
that
Yeah.
fact alone, this tool's awesome.
It might even save some, like people ordering way too much and then sending 90% of it back, which is a waste, of course. And then part of that clothing that's sent back is destroyed, so if you would reduce that even a little, that would be very, very useful as well.
When I grew up, people would go to the mall and shop and try stuff on the mall, and then if they didn't like it, they wouldn't buy it. But now, like all these people just buy whatever they want on Amazon or any online store, and they just return it. It's like a big waste of time, Like my wife might buy 10 outfits and only buy one of them and ship the rest of the 9 back. So that's awesome that this tool can help.
And then it's like backing up all the shipping for these companies. They're shipping 10 packages when really they only needed to ship 2.
Yeah.
So there's another supply chain issue there on that other end as well. So and the cost to do that, the labor to do that, could be a lot more efficient.
I mean, it could be at the point where it's if it looks exactly like it looks on your person, like your own person. Yeah, you maybe like it wouldn't feel. Maybe the touch could be different, but if it looks at least how it would look in real life, I think you could reduce a lot of this.
Now, are you looking to implement anything about sizing? As I know, a lot of times when you shop online, it's like, I'm not sure what size to get. Sometimes they run small, sometimes they run big. I mean, they have the measurements there. So I was wondering if you're implementing something like with people can measure their waists or measure their height or something and incorporate that somehow. Do you see that in the future?
I'm not interested in that at the moment, but I think it would work together very well. So the visual part that I'm now focusing on, like, do I actually like this? And of course, the images that I generate, they should be close enough to the real thing. So if shirts like run wide, it should be like a little bit baggy, or some things are tight that should look tight on the image. But then the next choice, like what actual size do you choose? I think that's a whole different field actually. So I would rather work like partner with other companies that have the knowledge.
So you mentioned when you were first starting out this project, you kind of came up with the idea because you were trying different image tools with your kids and like putting them in different locations and backgrounds and playing around with that, which is pretty cool. What kind of tools were you using then, and how have you seen those kind of tools evolve over maybe the past year, or even past couple months, or even weeks at this point?
Well, I think since the last 10 years, I've been working with like programming images with Python usually. So I've been doing that like forever. And even 1.5 years ago, I was just like making simple Python scripts that did some inpainting. So making masks, running these models. But I don't really have easy access to good GPUs. So I've been using Replicate a lot, the model hosting website, and to do the actual like AI model running and hosting my own models there as well. And yeah, things have changed a lot. So I think this fall, Stable Diffusion XL became available with very good training of LoRa's. I've been using that, and it's a lot of trial and error, right? So I love going on Replicate, and there you can explore all these new models and just like trying them all online. Like,
is it sort of like Hugging Face? Replicate, is it replicate.ai? What's the actual URL? Do you know offhand?
yeah, replicate.com. It is like Hugging Face Spaces, but the ID I think is they host open source models that you can find in papers, and where if you want to implement these things yourself, you're busy like for a day, to get all the installs and everything. So they make all of these open source models available with an easy API too, and then you can run these on their GPUs and you pay per second. So especially to have small scale projects or fast prototypes, it's really easy, and you can add your own models there as well, and a lot of people do, and it's a great resource to just explore things. And even they have like these, like on Hugging Face, they have these spaces where you can just try and upload your own images and your own prompts and everything, and then see the results.
Yeah, that's awesome. I've never heard of that
So-
before. That's sweet.
So are you using Replicate for your platform, or what are you using behind the scenes to make this magic happen on your site?
Yeah, so I'm using Replicate for hosting the AI models. I have a Python Django backend.
But you said what is that, Jasper? What you said, Byte?
No, Python Django, like a
Okay.
backend. So most of the sort of the AI stuff is on this Replicate, hosted on Replicate, and it's Stable Diffusion and a few other AI models to do image segmentation, like finding the face, finding the background, handling all these images. And then a big part of it is training the model on outfits. So it needs like 10 good pictures of an object. It could be a person wearing it. It could be just the object with a white background. As long as you have a few angles covered, you have a bit of variety. And so for that, I use LoRa training on the Stable Diffusion model, but that's also on Replicate.
So you just how does the process work if someone wants to, they've got a small store and they want to upload all their clothing to your site so that you guys can use it to fit somebody, the end customer that comes to your site to get fitted. How does that work? Do they just upload? Is there a process on your website right now where I upload all the retailer, for example, uploads all of their inventory, and then you call out the API to replicate, and then it does its magic at that point?
Yeah. So I have my own sort of web app where you can upload your pictures, like you said.
Mm-hmm.
And click the button, start training, and then it starts training in the back, and like 10-15 minutes later you can try this with your own pictures, or with like any of a few example pictures as well.
Do you have to lay out every shirt or dress or pair of pants or whatever it is perfectly, or is it better to have it laid out in perfect detail, or does someone just have to take a quick picture of it on somebody else wearing the shirt? How good do the pictures have to be that are uploaded for it to work well?
So I've been trying a few dozen objects that I scraped from web shops.
Mm-hmm.
And so these are usually very high quality pictures, of course, studio pictures. But there's usually 5 to 10, 1 or 2 models, a few without models, so flat. And I've seen it usually works for all of them. So sometimes there's a little bit of confusion if it has pictures of the back as well. So imagine that the front of the shirt might have text or something, the back doesn't. So the model in the end could turn it around and actually show the back of the shirt at the front. So it might be useful to have a little bit of manual checks on those kinds of things. I think as long as it's high quality and there's a bit of variation in terms of angles, it's fine, because I do also automatically crop the object itself.
Okay.
So next to the images, you have to input what it is. So like a shirt or a dress or whatever, and then I use like a a blip vision model that sort of finds this thing in the image, and it will train only on the actual image itself.
It is very realistic. If you go to outfitai.co and you look on the main site, if you just scroll down just a little bit, I'm looking at like the image comparisons, and I'm looking at it's the same picture of the person, and you can just drag the screen across, and you can see just different outfits on the person, and it's just crazy realistic. It looks like they're actually wearing it. It really does. In the background's very cool. I mean, it's very nice, very well done. I am just in awe of like how this image generation and how these manipulations are coming across. I mean, I just remember even 5 years ago, I mean, when you would try to take an image and try to put a different background on it, it looked like the person was literally just cut out. They'd have like a little glow around them, or a little like edgy, and sometimes it would get the background. And you know, this is just so seamless, and it's crazy realistic. It's very cool. One thing I wanted to ask along those lines is, like, obviously we see like deep fake images all the time coming out, celebrities, whatever it might be. People are worried about its ability to deceive people. Obviously, you're in the image generation space, so what are your thoughts on all of this and how to best deal with it?
Yeah, it's an interesting thing. It's not something you can actually stop, right? All this misuse of faces, of voices, and I think it's also a thing I'm a little bit worried about with this project. Like, what would people think of uploading their own face to such a service, right? But then again, for myself, I thought it was really important that this worked with just one picture. So I don't know if you've been looking at these headshot apps, or these AI avatar apps where you need to upload 10 or 20 pictures of your face, and then you can make anything, which is really cool, of course, but it's inconvenient, and it's also, I think that's a bit scary that you have a model that can make like these deep fake type things. And I think there could be some hesitancy for people to use that. This is just the picture you upload yourself. At least the face, you get exactly your face back. Yeah, I think it's the least scary thing there is for people, but I'm not sure about that. Yeah.
Do you think deep fake, like outside of Outfit AI, do you feel like deep fakes and these image people being manipulated in images for nefarious reasons is going to be a problem? Like for politicians or celebrities, they might be put in, you know, pictures that don't put them in a good way, and you know, it looks bad on their image for a politician or for a celebrity or something like that. Do you think that's going to be a big problem down the road?
Yeah, I wonder how influential that will be, because like with Photoshop, we've already had the capability to make very good looking fakes for maybe 20 years.
Right.
Of course, it's easier now, for sure. I think these voice scams, for instance, where they can clone your voice with like a minute or something, and they call people like parents with the cloned voice, you know. It's bad, but there's nothing we can do about this, right? It's
we're kind of screwed having our voices on this podcast, so you know, like,
this is already way too long. Yeah,
right.
In my personal opinion, I see these as more of like comforting the public and being like, oh, you know, this is our way of dealing with it, and saying that they did something about it. But at the end of the day, I'm like, these big companies must know that like the train is rolling, and there's not much you can do to stop it at this point.
Yeah, I don't think there's anyone who can do anything about this.
It's just gonna like sort of play out, and it depends how you ride the train, right? Like you can watch it roll by, or you can jump on board. So I don't think it's gonna stop anytime soon.
Yeah, and here in Europe, they try a lot with regulation, but of course, it's never gonna work.
Yeah, Europe's at least doing something. Here, all of our politicians are like, we're going to come down tough on AI and we're going to regulate it and we're going to do this and we're going to do that. And then nothing, they don't do anything. So it's just like all, they just talk about it and nothing happens.
Yeah,
We'll
but
see.
things go too fast, right? For this whole process as well.
Yeah. It's a fine, it's like a fine dance. It's a dance, like
it's tough because if you do anything, the question is like, okay, well whatever you do, it's got to be right. Because if you don't do it right, then you're going to get criticized because you really screwed it up big time. But then if you don't do anything, it's like, well, now you didn't do anything. So they're really stuck in this middle ground of like, okay, well, we're looking into it. We're making another announcement. We're having another meeting. And like we put these in our newsletter occasionally, but like we could put them every day if we really wanted to. Like another act is signed, like a meeting has been done to discuss AI threats and stuff like that. But it seems like this stuff's going on all the time. But at the end of the day, it's like only time will tell what's going to happen.
It's very difficult because it's a global thing, right?
Yeah.
You can't really regulate things well. Like I think in China they do a lot of. They have a very good grip on things because they're very tough on everything.
Right.
It's tough because countries are also feeling like they might fall behind if they regulate too much because other countries are full steam ahead. They feel like, well, if we pull back, we might be way behind the curve in 2 years on the innovations that the other countries have, maybe in military warfare or technology or just, really their economy, whatever it might be. So I think that's another factor as well.
But one thing too is like, say if 75% of the world's countries come down hard on AI and regulate it heavily. Well, all it takes is for a couple countries to say, we have no regulation in AI and AI runs wild because everybody, all the big companies work out of those countries without any regulations. And what are they going to do? I mean, I could see it starting a potential war one day between countries, depending on what the regulation is on AI, but we'll see. It's going to be interesting.
Yeah, it's going to be very interesting. But even then, it's easy to hide some GPU farm somewhere, right? Underneath, like in a cave.
Yeah, all it takes is one company to work around the regulations, and who knows what will happen, good or bad. I think one of the biggest plays, and you mentioned it a little bit very early on, is the marketing aspect of it, right? Like on your site right now, Hunter alluded to that you guys have, or he went on and saw that you have awesome demos, which you guys do. And one of the coolest things about it is, like, say if you're a small or medium-sized retailer and you live in the middle of the country in the United States or in Europe or wherever, and you want your model to have the clothes on your website in New York City, or you want the model to be on a tropical island. Well, you can do that on Outfit AI, right? Like you can take a picture of your model and put the clothes on it and put them anywhere you can imagine in the world.
Yeah, and that's very easy to do, of course. It's so right now I always use like the fashion cities as backgrounds, like Paris, Milan, New York. But of course everything works. Beaches, runways, whatever you would like. So it's, I think that would be a very cool thing for stores to sort of adapt these things to their own brand feeling, right?
Mm-hmm.
So it would be like a personalized way to market this, but yeah, you might like, next to the piece of clothing and how it looks, you might also want to sell a feeling, so you can put the customer with this piece of clothing. Like, say you might be selling outdoor wear, put the customer in the mountains or in the forest, and it looks like a proper fashion photo shoot.
Right. And I can imagine that there's probably stores on Shopify like that would your product will be a great fit for, and it sounds like there'll be a plugin or something on Shopify that that the store can download and then use your tool. But But I can imagine there's a lot of stores on Shopify, small, medium, and large, that just have generic pictures of their models right now. And if they put their models in a different light, like on a beach or in a mountain, if they have mountain, you know, if it's a mountain climbing gear store or something like that, it could increase their sales by like 10 or 20 or 30% or something. Like that probably can happen like for them right now, if they have their pictures in a better light than what they are right now.
Yeah, it's like technically definitely possible, and it's like, of course, a fraction of the cost of actually going there and finding a model, a photographer, and the whole crew.
So how do you see this changing the model industry? Because like you're looking at it, and you talked about like, I mean, everybody wants to talk about jobs, but less concerned about that. More concerned about when people see models, they're like, oh well, this model's unrealistic in their body type, and then some companies go the whole other way, and people are like, well, now you overboarded it, and now it's like this is unrealistic for the average person. So it's like, okay, let's do away with all the models. We'll just put you in that place, and there you go, personalized. How do you think that sort of thing changes the modeling industry in general, and how people view models, maybe what happens to models and things like that?
I don't know. It's going to be very interesting. I think some image generation models, so Mid-Journey, for instance, looks so realistic, and you can make these models look so good that I feel like we're not far from the point where it's really not possible to distinguish between real and fake anymore. And at that point, why bother with models? Why bother with real photo shoots? Then you're also not limited to any like physical constraints anymore, right? Gravity. You can be anywhere, do anything you want. Maybe like famous people, that could be like a selling point, right? But like unknown models that just look good, I don't feel like any would have any advantage over fake images.
The interesting thing is that for years, people have been upset because they've been editing the images of the models. So companies have been doing this forever, ever since Photoshop came out.
Yeah.
Is they're taking these human pictures and editing them a ton, anyways. What's the difference if you just start with the generated image rather than an actual person? What's the difference at the end product, anyways? I guess on these company sides, right?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
You have a background in the medical fields. Can you just talk to us a little bit more about medical imaging? Because that seems to be something that's really important, that's coming to fruition. I mean, you're talking about like analyzing like screens for breast cancer and all this different research that's coming out. I've seen like people diagnosing autism based on like eye scans and different stuff like that. Given your background in that sort of field, combined with the imaging, where do you think the potential of this has to go? Is it as great as people say it is right now? Is it better than people think it is? Where's the imaging at right now, and where do you see it going in the future in the medical field?
Yeah, great question. So I must say I've been out of research for a couple of years now, but yeah, we've seen like great improvements in the last years. One limiting factor has been lack of data. So it's very difficult to find good medical imaging data sets because of privacy laws, and you can just use images as you want, right? So collecting data is a very long process that academic institutions, they might take years and years, and then they come up with like a few hundred or a few thousand patient data points or images, which might vary a lot of like in quality, in how they've been made. So compared to other fields, the data just isn't as great as it is. But I think that just means that there's like a lot of room for improvement still in that field. So it lags behind a couple of years, but that's good. But then, of course, there are like constraints in physics, right? In measurements you do. So whether it's an ultrasound or an MRI or a CT, you only have so much data to work with, and it's different from like regular Gen AI where you can just imagine things up or try to fill in the blanks, because you need to be working with actual measured data, and things need to be very reliable as well.
Right.
That's way more difficult and way slower than other fields, of course.
Right. I mean, this is one of the things that I've seen as a trend in the medical applications of AI, is that a lot of it is trained on like these closed cases or really old cases,
Yeah.
not on predicting actual real-time cases. We had this issue also in some other industries that we've looked into. Ryan, if you remember when we talked to the Cleveland, the lady from Cleveland who did she looked into different cases, like some criminal cases and rape cases, and it was able to do really well with the data that it had, but it was all trained on old data, closed cases from long ago, because that's all you could get access to. I wonder if there's going to be a way to utilize AI for real-time cases in the coming years. Maybe I'm thinking when people get medical imaging done, there's like a waiver that they sign. It's like, oh, this could be used for AI training data or something like that. I could see that sort of thing happening, and it could get really interesting. But yeah, there are various industries, like you say, that I think struggle because they don't have that real-time data. It's all these closed cases, these past cases. That's like, okay, great. It predicted with 80% accuracy things that were done 10 years ago. It's like, okay, well, what are we going to do now if we don't have access to data?
Yeah. But then one thing that's very promising, I think, is synthetic data. So the better like generative AI becomes, the more useful the synthetic data you can make to train like other types of models on that as well.
So in Jasper, when you say synthetic data, for the people that don't know what that actually means, it means that the AI creates its own data to train itself off of.
Yeah, and exactly. Yeah. Which of course has many pitfalls and things you might get worried about, like, is this synthetic data, how representable is it going to be of the real world? And so that's a whole like field and discussion in itself, but it's one of the possibilities, I think, to solve this.
Yeah, it's hard to even comprehend that, right? Like it's like once AI becomes so good, it doesn't need any kind of real world data anymore. It just trains itself. Like that's kind of hard to wrap your head around, but it sounds like it's possible. It's just there's going to be some glitches along the way. Hopefully they're not glitches that make things terrible for humans, but we'll see.
Yeah, we'll see maybe shortly.
That is interesting. So what do you think about these doomsday scenarios, Jasper? Are you a doomsday AI guy, or are you more hopeful about AI in the future?
No, I'm hopeful, but I do understand where they're coming from, because it's amazing to see how good, for example, GPT-4 is in reasoning, in like in writing code, which just works now like long scripts work. Like you don't have to do anything anymore. So I think it's easy to see how things could go wrong. But then the one issue I have with all these doomsday scenarios is they always sketch this scene where everything's going fine in the world, and then this AI decides to do whatever it's got to do, and like as a consequence the entire world dies because I don't know, it didn't take that into account. But then I feel like there could be issues and dangerous things, but why? We'll see it when we get there. And I don't think the first issues are going to be that big, right? Like the first there might be dangerous things, but it could be that AI does something that kills 10 or 20 people. Well, if we're there, we can think about it, but I don't think we're going to be at the stage that it's safe, nothing happens, and then 1 million people die at first. There's got to be steps in between.
Well, it's the same thing with any new technology, like driving cars is dangerous, but we still do it, right? And we get better at it. Like, car safety has gotten exponentially better over the years. So it's probably going to be the same type of thing with AI, hopefully. One of the interesting things, like Elon Musk, he's making these AI robots, the Optimus 2, I think they're called.
Mm.
And one of the interesting things that he did with the robots is he made them so they're lightweight. They're only like, I think maybe 50 pounds around there. And he said the reason why they made them lightweight is because if they do go rogue, then a human can overtake them if they need to. They can overpower them. So
Right. So,
but they could work together, right? With like 10 of them, and then
yeah, that's a great point. Maybe he didn't think about that. Yeah, you should only have one robot in your house cleaning for you. Then don't get more.
Oh, sure, yeah.
yeah, I mean, Ryan makes a great point as far as like, I think that there's going to be things that come up along the way that we don't see right now. I mean, when people were inventing cars, it's like they didn't know anything about the stoplight technology or automatic braking and stuff like that.
Yeah.
It's like those are things that weren't even thought of when cars came out. And now that cars have been implemented, we've seen some incidents, we've learned from them, kind of like you said, Jasper. There might be some things that come along, we learn from those, and then we're like, okay, well, maybe we need to implement this, or maybe we need to put this parameter in. And we kind of explore along the way. Same thing with planes. Like when they came out, it's like the first planes being flew, or like, okay, I'm not getting on a plane. But now it's like the safest way to travel, right? You got like autopilot, you got all these like safety features. So I think AI could be something like that there's a lot more that's going to surface as time goes on.
Yeah, agreed. Yeah. We'll see it when we get there.
It's gonna be fun, a fun ride. I mean, even right now, it's like every day you jump on and see what new news is out there for AI in particular, and it's like it's entertain. Our world is entertainment in and of itself. Like you don't need to go out and watch TV. Just see what's happening in our real world in terms of how AI is sort of becoming a new and better thing every day. That's entertainment right there. Just jumping on the news every day and seeing what new stories are out there. So
yeah. It's overwhelming as well, of course, and I feel like there's this fear of missing out, and so many people do so many cool things. Like you want to be like keep on top of it and try it out. Like I want to do my own stuff, and but it's really it's amazing. These last like 1.5, 2 years, it's like I think every month there's been a sort of like thing there. You're like, how is this possible?
I remember just about a year ago, Ryan calls me on the phone and tells me about how there's this thing online. I didn't understand what he was saying. He's like, there's this thing online you can plug in and say, because he was talking about one of his his daughter, and he's like, yeah, I can type in and say, here, write a bedtime story, and it literally writes a bedtime story. And then it's like, and you press regenerate, and then it just regenerates something completely different in like a second. I'm like, no, this can't be real. I'm thinking like Ryan's like got some sketchy thing going on. I'm like, what is this? Yeah. And then it turns out like that was just the start. I mean, right? Like some people are just amazed with the chatbots in general, and that's just the start of what AI can do. So it's really incredible just to have seen what's going on in the past, like you said, just the past year and a half.
Yeah, and I wonder how many people are still skeptical or don't even realize all of this, like what's possible. I think many people that are not like always online and just do, I guess, like normal people stuff, they don't realize this at all, or they might be skeptical and don't really see the possibilities yet.
Yeah, I think there's a huge crowd of those type of people out there. I do like short YouTube informational news videos, and some of the comments they get, you can just tell the people, they don't know about the technology yet, and most of them are just haters. They're just hatred because they're afraid of it deep down inside. That's the problem.
Yeah, do you think that's just because they're afraid, or?
I think so, Ryan. What do you think? I mean, I remember the first time I used ChatGPT, I was like, okay, well, it is scary, right? I mean, you get on there and you start putting stuff in and you're like, oh, wait, maybe this can do better than me at a lot of things. You're like, okay, well, now I'm trying to test it and trying to find ways. And I've been in a couple of trainings for like how to use AI in education and things like that. And one of the things that they love to do, the educators love to do, is just say how limited AI is at this or that, or they love dogpiling about, oh, well, they can't do this well, or it can't do this well. There is a lot of hostility and negativity towards it for those who are new to it, for sure. What do you think, Ryan?
Yeah, I think it's I think there's a turning point. I think most people, when they're confronted with a new technology, unless you're a technologist, or a programmer or something like that, your first initial reaction is to hate it. And then once someone shows you a tool that can make your life way, way easier, you're like, holy crap, this is the coolest thing ever. And the email, I know this example gets brought up over and over again, but like the internet and email, like everybody uses email now. Whether you hated it at the beginning or not, even your 80-year-old grandparents probably use it in some form or the other. So it's just a matter of finding something that improves your life or someone else's life. And that's sort of just like the aha moment that gets most people, to jump on board.
I want to say one thing to that, Ryan. That is so true, because I was talking to this one professor, and he goes, I don't want any of my students getting anywhere close to AI. It's going to stifle their learning, blah, blah, blah. And I'm like, okay, well, what if AI could help you grade, all of their assignments? He goes, well, I guess that would be good. And I'm thinking, well, what's the difference? You can use it, but they can't. Now, hold on a second. But you're right. You're totally right. Until they can use it.
Yeah, like mind-numbing tasks like grading papers. I mean, that's got to take hours and hours and hours. And if you could just have AI do it for you, it's like, holy crap, that guy's got to be like, this is amazing, Like,
because I could just like visualize his mind just like come out of his head and flip and then go back.
Is there anything else that you want to promote other than the outfit company that we have you on here for in the first place?
No. It's outfitai.co, and I'm very busy building that. I'm on Twitter as well. Thanks you so much for the invite. It's been great talking to you too.
Absolutely. So that's outfitai.co. And then be sure to check out Ryan and I's weekday AI newsletter. You can get the hottest updates, the coolest tools, including tools like this, outfitai.co. And then we also got a mystery link too. Every single day we send a mystery link. It'll take you to something very interesting in the world of AI. And then on Sundays, we get our deep dive articles into cool developers and developments like this one. And then be sure to subscribe to this YouTube channel, Behind the Bots, so you can see all our interesting and intriguing AI interviews.